Life continues after our time in the physical world ends. On countless occasions we've seen evidence of that. Time and again, our experiences confirm that there is more to this life than that of which we could ever imagine.
How we deal with losing a loved one is as different as we are as individuals.
Chris Sloan Media and 606 Paranormal present
The Gatherings, Contact.
Exclusively on Patreon, The Gatherings, Contact will focus on individuals who hope to make contact and be able to talk to people and get support from those who have been through and are going through the pain of loss. Beginning Wednesday, April 5th at 7 p.m. Only on Patreon.
For entertainment purposes only.
Oh, well, I hope that you're having the happiest Monday since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny Kaye. So it's Monday all over town, isn't it?
That's a pretty happy day.
That's a very happy day, dear. I realized, and I knew this going in, that we weren't going to get a lot of people right off the cuff. Number one, it's 6 o'clock in the evening. A lot of people on their way home.
Yeah.
Number two, it's Monday. Number three, everybody's used to the gatherings being on Thursday. But this isn't the gatherings. That's why you didn't see a gatherings open. This is Stacy and Chris. And Lloyd. Puddin'.
Let's see. Hey, Barry. Hey, Charlie.
We have got what I think is a pretty big announcement. Some people are going to jump on this. Some people aren't. But let me explain what it is. The Gatherings Contact.
Hey, Steph.
Is going to be a completely Patreon event. Now, if you're already a Patreon member, you ain't got to do a thing. It'll be aired on Patreon and what we call a private YouTube channel. The only way that you can get into it is if you got a link. But here's the kicker. The gatherings will continue Thursdays, and it'll be open and available to anybody that wants to watch. But Contact is more about people who are really, really going through the thick of it. We'll have special guests on. As a matter of fact, we've confirmed Bill Bean, who is a spiritual deliverance minister, an exorcist, and a few others. It's going to be much less formal, and where it's a Patreon thing, it's going to be, let's say that Lloyd wanted to be a part of it. Which Lloyd would be, but I'm using him as a observer. I'm going to send you a link and put you right in here with us if you want to do that. If not, then we can talk by text and any other means. The purpose of Contact is designed to give the individual a very a custom tailored approach. Stace had a thought this morning, and I'm telling you, I did too, and we're over 100 miles apart. And
but not by heart.
Yes, not by heart. But you summed it up really well when you said, how was it that you put that?
It's what we do is it's an interactive paranormal experience.
An interactive paranormal program.
Absolutely.
And I don't know of any place else that does something like this. And I'm not talking about these shows where people get up here and say, something's coming to me. Okay, I see third row up, second row back, fifth seat down. Your sister's uncle's aunt's roommate from college is here. Look, I'm not disputing the gift of mediumship. I'm sure that it's real for some people. But for some people, I'm going to say it's bullshit. I'm going to say for the majority of people out there, they find hook, line, and sinker. That's not what this is about. I'm not claiming to be anything other than special effects. That's what I am. Stace is the one who pulls this stuff off. And we have sat back and watched it repeatedly, episode after episode. People coming through my personal experiences with my mom and dad, hearing them. I don't think that particular episode was broadcast. I think that was something that you and I did, that you did for me. But I tell you, ones that were broadcast were Trevor, Ollie coming through. And you and I were talking earlier this morning, via video chat about some other people had contacted you and said that they had heard some of their loved ones come through. Now, let me ask you a real simple question, and I already know the answer to this. Did you put them up to asking you that question?
No.
So they contacted you. You didn't contact them and say, "Would
Right.
you say this?"
Yeah.
They contacted you.
When I do our shows, I channel what I can,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm thinking, and I've noticed, and I have been noticing a lot, and I think everybody else notices it too. It's becoming more and more active, and it's becoming more and more towards the people that are with us, and they're
Well,
consecutively, and they keep coming back. It's starting to work. I'm telling everybody, I'm like, concentrate. Let's all channel this together, and their energy comes through, and
it's
if I didn't see it and hear it, it would be like I don't believe it.
it's real. If you understood the science, and excuse me, I'm dealing with allergies from
Hey,
where.
Cody.
If you understand the science of how the spirit box works, is my Cody in there?
Yeah, that's my Cody.
Oh, that's my Cody. That's our Cody. Yeah. Hello, Stacy and Lloyd. To hell with Dad. Oh, hey, Dad, there. I see her trying to. She getting ready to come over here and stomp a mud hole in me and walk it dry.
Yeah.
I love my Cody. And thanks, Barry, for being here. Charlie and everybody. Steph,
Yes.
Cody. We really appreciate you guys for showing up here. But if you understand the science about how the spirit box works, it's nothing more than a bunch of jumble. It's noises that should absolutely have not a snowball's chance in hell of making a sentence or a word, let alone a sentence. And yet we get that. It's physically impossible, according to physics as we know it. But we're not talking about physics as we know it. We're talking about things as we don't understand them. And a lot of people shun what we do. They think, well, they're devil worshipers. No, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. They think, well, they're out for this or they're out for that. No. What we're out to do is try to help people. And that's something else that's going to come up here.
I have a bishop, and he actually posted, and I reposted what he said the other night. And he's the top bishop at the Catholic Church here. And
that's about as far across from away from devil worship as you can
and
get.
he is thanking everybody, that does this, that doesn't care to go out there and help those people at 3
here's the kicker. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, the Catholic Church or any church, some churches today would look down on what we're doing. Look, I'm not trying to convince anybody that ghosts exist. This isn't about ghosts. This is about hope. It's about healing. People lose people that we love every single day. This is a more intensified approach is what contact is about. That we can actually have people come in and talk to them via video chat and maybe do something to help them. Now, people would and will no doubt say, and I'm prepared for this as much as I can be, I guess, well, why are you taking their sad stories and broadcasting it on a platform that can reach the entire world? Well, I'll tell you why. So other people won't feel alone in it and other people can get hope out of it too. That's why. It's that simple.
I mean, if we were doing it for the wrong reasons, we'd be charging folks for it. Come on.
No, and the gatherings will be about
that.
Now, contact will be a Patreon only thing. And Patreon things there start at $3 a month. That's $36 a year. Why are we charging Patreon? That's how we support ourselves doing this. That's how we support the platforms. That's how we support. Do you want to know how much money is sitting in this damn studio right now? It's more money than some people see in a year. And I've been blessed. Some of it I put together over the course of time when I was doing audiobooks. Some when, and I do radio work, and we do podcasts. Speaking of which, we're getting back to that. But this stuff costs money. You think 606 Paranormal, somebody just swooped in one day and said, hey, here's a couple of K2 meters. Here's an SLS camera. Here's some voice recorders. Here's some of these cameras. Here's some of that cameras. And just gave it to them? No. I'll tell you who bought it. You're looking at them on the other side of this screen. That's who bought it, Stacy and Lloyd. out of their pocket, just like I did out of this pocket. Now, am I looking to get, what we're looking for is to continue and grow bigger with this so we can help more people. And so it is a Patreon only thing. Now, will the gathering still continue? Yes, pretty much like you've seen, but the contact is going to be so much more individual intense. We will actually have somebody pop up in the chat room and say, I would really, really love to hear from my dad. And Lloyd, Stace, or I will see that and say, hey, Stace, I've got a person out here named John Doe. And John says that they lost their dad about a year ago and they're having a really difficult time. Can we focus on this person? And that's who we're going to focus on for a while. We'll move on to the next one. And we'll do that until we can't go no more.
And not only that, I want to say this too. Once that they give me that name and they give me that info on those people that they want, I'm going to constantly be listening for that. Not just then. I'm going to constantly be listening for it every time I do a session to listen for messages that are for them. And I record everything. So if something comes up and say, Lloyd's grandma comes through and says, tell my grandson I love him or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell him even if it's going to be, on the air or not. I'm going to, once you get that, I don't know how to really say it. Once you get that relationship going, that's the word, with me, I'm going to be there for you. Every time I hear somebody that you've been wanting to hear, and if I hear that name, if I hear something, we've got it. I'm going to tell you.
Let me give you a very specific example of how something like this will work to some degree. All right, Charlie just texted on here, Stace. I used to see a lot when I was younger. I've never seen anyone that I knew, but I've only had dreams, the dreams of them. I've captured orbs on my phone camera. Now, we're going to address this. Is it possible to capture orbs on a phone camera? You darn right it is. Stacy sent me a very compelling video just last night. I think it was, wasn't it? Or yesterday.
Last night.
Yeah, yesterday. About Interstate 75. We'll have that on the Gatherings Thursday. Yep. But and there's more of that to come too. But we are actually going to talk to people. And in addition to that, I have discovered out of personal experience, I'm sorry, I'm not in here drinking Jack Daniels right now, so I got to have a bad habit somewhere, which I don't drink. The best therapy is talking about it, even when you find it really hard to. I was very lucky. I had Trev to talk about mom and dad, and when I lost Trev, I had other people. When I lost Ollie, I had other people. But Ollie was a good friend. Trevor was like a brother to me. Of course, my mom and dad were my mom and dad. And sometimes when you talk about it, I want this thing to do for me or to do for you what it did for me. Because I've told this story a few weeks ago on the show. I woke up one Sunday morning and it was bam. Okay. Let's start living again. Let's quit moping around. But it takes time. And the amount of time it takes is as different as each person is different. For one person, it may take a few months. For another person, it may take a few years, it may take longer. It may be an ongoing process. Moving on, though, doesn't mean we forget them. It just means that we move on. In addition, we're going to work to some end to have grief counseling available. I know people that do that. And I'm going to see if they would be willing to give some of their time. And that's fine, too. Most of the time, though, when you get pro counselors, you got to pay them. And I don't care to do that. I'm not looking to stuck a crap ton of money in my pocket, neither is Stace. We're looking to make sure that this thing helps people and grows. And the reality of this physical world is you got to have some kind of financial backing sometimes to get some things done. Now, she and I can do only so much. And hopefully that's enough for most people. But when we need more, we get more. My goal is to prevent people from sinking into a depression and committing the unthinkable act of suicide. I've had people message me, say, that show saved my life. Well, hell, you think Stacy and I knew that at the time? It wasn't until after. But we realized pretty quick what we do must be somewhat important. So, the purpose of the gatherings contact is that right there. And go to a counselor. I've been. Tell me how much they charge you. I've paid. It ain't no $3 a month. Now, when we do these, I'm going to ticket it on Facebook as well. And there'll be an admission on Facebook as well, an admission fee. The regular gatherings that we do every Thursday night will continue to remain free. The gatherings contacts will charge $5. Or you can be a $3 Patreon member and pledge $3 a month for a year and see what that does. But I'm thinking we've got 3 tiers, $3, $5, and $10, and $5 sounds okay. And trust me, we're going to do everything we can. Also, for the Patreon members, videos. We are going to be shooting videos. We, Stacy, Lloyd, and I, different places, because we're right at this time, we're a bit of a distance apart. And Stacy and Lloyd know all the haunts. They know all of that. Me, I just happen to run into some weird shit. That's the way it is. Me speaking blunt. I just run into some weird stuff. But I got this app on my phone that's a professional grade camera. It looks just like a high def camera when you play it back on screen. So we're going to be filming that. It'll only be available to Patreon members. When we film the documentaries, behind the scenes and stuff like that, Patreon will get it first. And in some cases, they'll be the only ones to get the behind the scenes stuff. So what we're doing is really stepping up our game here. Plus Patreon members at the VIP tier of $10, you're going to get t-shirts and little stuff like that. Maybe it's a 606 Paranormal shirt. Maybe it's a Mountain Mystery shirt. Or check out the logo. And most people so far have really liked what they've seen with it. I mean, it's something nice to wear around the house.
I mean, it's so small I couldn't hardly see it. I mean,
oh, was it? Yeah. You want to say it's on a pretty big monitor? You want me to zoom it in a little closer?
Wow.
So,
Look,
that was literally created today in about 5 minutes, just like the video you saw. And I thought, well, I need a voiceover behind this thing. And I thought, damn, I don't want to be the only one doing voiceovers. So, yeah, I put this back here because people are saying that they like it. So
yeah, but you've got the best voiceover voice on the planet.
Well,
that would sound so good. You just
I got a couple of British chicks and I got a couple of good old boys.
Yeah.
And so here's what I need. And okay. and there it is. But that's what the shirt would look like. Very similar to something like that. And I don't know. It just came about and I was like, well, that looks pretty good. And sorry for the movement of the camera like that. But they will be available for $10 tier members. And that's the VIP. Because if we get enough in, and I'm talking about, we've got enough right now to pay for this thing, but we want to grow it. We want it to get bigger. And that comes through marketing and advertising. That stuff costs money. And we have got to go and sit down and say, okay, we want a qualified grief counselor to sit in on the show. These people went to school. They learned how to do this. They learned their trade. No different than a welder, no different than a doctor, a lawyer, a psychiatrist, whatever it was. They learned this stuff and they should be paid for it. Stacy will tell you, and so will Lloyd, I am a big opponent of not paying somebody. Right now, we really ain't got enough to go around. So we all do this and none of us are getting paid for it. That's, no, I don't like that. But by the same token, Stace said today, well, I'm just going to put it right back into equipment. And I thought, well, hell, that's the same thing I'm going to do. So that's okay. Do you really think I want to go for the next 5 years with a little tiny camera like she and I have? No, I want something bigger because it presents a better thing for you to watch, something more enjoyable. And I want the ability to take phone calls, pop it right into the studio and talk to people. We can do that. But Go ahead and go to B&E Audio and look up what a JK Audio hybrid costs. They start at around $800. And then, of course, there's the phone line you got to get. Who the hell uses landlines anymore? That's how a hybrid phone system works. We're going to do that. There's a lot that we want to do, and we're going to do. But again, it's all because of Patreon support. But before people can get onto Patreon and support it, I think that they should have something to support. Because here lately, I've been kind of lacking and putting up stuff like that. That's because we've been so busy with everything else. And for those of you who have stood in there, sinuses, Lord. For those of you who have stood in there, Stacy, you've been Patreon for a coon's age. Thank you for sticking by our side. Steph, all of you guys that are Patreon supporters have done that. Now, maybe you're asking, well, how do we get onto the Patreon to support it? At $3 a month, that's fine. Look on our Facebook pages. You'll see the links. And Stacy, I'm going to email you the link. You can just copy it and put it on yours, if you will.
Okay.
And people can, for as little as $3 a month, you'll get all that, and you're going to get a lot more. If you want to do $10 a month, that's great. But we've capped it at $10 a month. Because my thought is if we get 100 people at $10 a month, we're going to be able to do some serious good. And that's the purpose of it. That's what I want to do. I'm not interested in talking to you, so call back later. So that's kind of what we're doing. That's where we're at, and that's where we're going. But it's the Gatherings Contact. Stace and I talked about it this morning. And oddly enough, she woke up with a concept almost identical to what I was thinking about, that I woke up with. Then I thought back while you and I were talking, Stace, about what Sharon Barron had told me back when this whole thing got started. That she had a dream, or that April had came to her. I don't know that it was a dream, but that April had came to her and said, these videos need to happen. They need to happen. Okay. And that's pretty much what I did. I said, well, I've got the equipment already, so it's not a big deal. Upgrade a little bit here and there. That's not a big deal. This is all about helping people. This ain't about me buying a Ferrari. I drive a freaking Hyundai. And you know what? I love my Hyundai. Lloyd, you got a Toyota. Stace, what are you driving now, honey?
I got a Mini Cooper.
Stacy has a Mini Cooper. And we're okay with that. I ain't looking to live in some big... I'm sorry, and I don't mean to ruffle feathers here, but I think just about everybody will agree that we're living in a world right now that's gone amok. This country's never been more divided. But outside of that, let's talk on the spiritual level. You have pastors out there living better. And I'm not against the pastor making a living. I'm all for it. I want a pastor to eat good food, live in a nice home. Spread the truth of the word of Jesus Christ and the gospel. But you got some out here that make people, and they will fake people into believing that Jesus Christ is the tooth fairy. He is not the tooth fairy. He is a hero. He is the superhero. He is the one who saved the world. The Son of God. But yet, you get some pastors out here that are driving Ferraris, that have multi-million-dollar homes, and that will preach to you that if you just plant the seed of faith in God, he will return it to you tenfold. Well, he will. But he ain't talking about money. It's not about money. It's about his blessings on you. It's about his love for you. It's about
Tammy Faye Baker. Remember that when we were growing up?
Yeah. Tammy Faye Baker was one.
I'm like, how can people honestly?
Well, I don't want to say any names, but let me pop out. Osteen. Excuse me.
Oh,
Osteen.
yeah.
That's one. And there's more. You know, if you wanted to see a true man of God, I don't know. I'm not an expert in these things, and I don't judge anybody else because I sin differently. But it seemed to me like Billy Graham was the real deal. Rest his soul. And I'm sure his soul's at rest. Did you see his house? He had a nice 2-story. You seen some of their other houses? You seen what's sitting in their driveway? Have you seen some of these guys that have jets?
Gee whiz.
Jets. And I ain't talking about something that you'd land at Archer Park. I'm talking about a Gulfstream, luxury jets. You see, when people are sick, dying, or they feel lost, they'll pay anything. I'm not looking to take advantage of that. I'm looking to help these people. And maybe, just maybe, say, you know what? If you got a ton of money and you're looking to throw it away, why don't you go to a homeless veteran or an orphan child or a school? I mean, I don't know how schools work these days, but maybe there's some child somewhere that in school that needs money. And I'm not talking about overseas. I'm talking about right here in the United States, in any one of the states that make up North America, that make up the USA. Pick one in your own backyard. Charity starts at home. So if you want to go and say, hey, I've got $100 extra bucks, I'd like to do some good with it. Think about that child. Think about that single mom who is working, trying to make a living and just can't make ends meet, who needs a bag of groceries. That's where we're headed. I've already seen people in here, and I've got some messages saying, I'm in. I hope, and I thank you. Sharon Barron says we just opened up a homeless shelter in Paintsville. That's where she works. That's great. Helen Prater, I appreciate what you all do. Charlie Bowling, who is one of our top fans. Actually, I don't consider them fans. I don't know why.
No, they're family.
Thank you. Again, we on the same wavelength. They're family. You guys are family. You're not fans.
You all are our family.
Let me tell you something.
Period.
If you ever see me walking on, I may not really recognize who watches this show, but I've had all kinds of people walk up to me in Food City or wherever saying, aren't you the guy that does that gatherings thing? And I say, well, I'm part of a team that does it, because there's a team that goes in behind this. You know, I had Lloyd. Lloyd and I are now working together doing research for some of the podcast episodes.
Oh,
sweet. And we're going to be doing research for these. It's not just Chris Sloan, not by a long shot. And of course, people, you've been recognized too for it, haven't you? Stace?
Me, yeah, a couple times.
Mm-hmm. It happens. People are watching, and as long as we keep going, it's only going to get bigger. So I'm thinking, if it's going to get bigger, let's do some good with it. Let's help some people. Let's help some people that are at their absolute lowest because they've lost their mom, they've lost their only friend, they've lost whatever. And let's show them they are not alone. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that God will bless you tenfold over. With any luck, he already has. My mama used to tell me that what gifts God gives you are just that, they're gifts, and what you do with them are gifts back to him. That sums it up in a nutshell, I guess. And we can all do this. Whether you support on Patreon or not, you're always welcome to watch the gatherings. Contact will be a Patreon-only event, and it will be charged on Facebook if you want to see it. And a lot of people at first are going to buck that. I get that. I like what Charlie said right there. He said, I support a church that supports Israel. Israel's God. The Israelites are God's people. They fought the shortest war in history. You jack with them, bad idea. And you know, I've talked to people from Israel. Great people. I mean, granted, I'm a country boy from Kentucky. I had a little bit of trouble understanding them, and you should have seen the look on their face when I spoke. They were like, what? I sound like some guy from Scotland who just got off and he shagged the ball to the nasty woods. And yeah, that's probably what they're thinking. They're thinking, oh my God, is that where the game of golf from, to knock a ball into a gopher hole? Is it? No, but I believe in churches that support Jesus Christ, that teach his word. And I had this wonderful conversation the other day with a guy about, well, I got to do this and I got to do that. And if I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I said, Jesus is not looking for slaves. He's looking for friends. He didn't tell Noah, well, come to me after you've done this. He didn't tell Joseph, come to me after you've done this. He didn't tell Matthew, come to me after you've done collecting taxes. He said, come to me as you are. Who did Jesus hang out with when he was here on earth? He went to where it was the worst of the worst. Prostitution, disease, people without hope, and gave them the greatest gift in the world. I'd like to do what I could to keep that alive. I'd like us to do what we could to keep that alive. And working as family in his name, I think that'd be pretty cool. I've not yet been called a cult, but I'm pretty sure after today I probably will be. But this isn't a cult, folks. This is not a cult. My name's Chris Sloan. That's Stacey Underwood Gullett. That's Lloyd Gullett. I think for me, speaking personally, I'm so sick and tired. And I've been quiet so long about it. About seeing the direction this country's gone in and is going in. And I'm so sick and tired of seeing people take the name of Christ and then try to go out and live high on the hog because they're using his name. So what are we going to do? Well, let's say that we start making a little more off of Patreon. We're going to invest in, probably start off with social media advertising. Get the word out there. We're going to buy some shirts, because when you put these shirts, like it's on this monitor, I mean, every time I wear a Mountain Mysteries t-shirt, my own child said this, when she wore hers, people ask, what's that? What's it about? I had a text message from a lady the other night. What's the Mountain Mysteries? And it's been going on for 2 years now, almost. Now, March 5th made 2 years. What is it? They're just now hearing about it. And that's okay. That's how this works. That's okay. Arrow, Cody's husband, tried his best to explain that to me. And I was too dense to get it at the time. Well, the older I get, I guess the less dense I'm getting. But I said, that's okay. It's getting out there. The gatherings, its original format, will continue. It's what April wanted. It's what a lot of people love. There'll be no charge for that. But if
we got some videos coming up too of some investigations that we're going to be putting on here that that we've been doing for a little bit.
Yes, Lloyd and I, and you and I spoke briefly about that. Lloyd and I talked earlier last week, wasn't it, Lloyd? About you, yeah. And I'm grateful for your help, and I thank you for that. And you guys have covered, and I think I even mentioned it to Lloyd. I said, you guys have covered so many cases, it's not funny. And we can respect the rights and privacy of everyone. People can come on here, and I can literally stop your video feed and just use your audio feed if you don't want your face on here, but yet you want to tell us your story. That's perfectly fine too. Or we can record it, and I can distort it through post editing and even change your voice. You'd be amazed at what I can do with Adobe Audition. I've actually made Bill Clinton say, I did in hell. Yeah. And about sex with a younger one. Yeah. Well, he did that too. So made him say all that. This is about reaching out to those who feel like they have no one to reach out to. Am I trying to save the world? No, I'm just trying to make our part of it a little better.
We also got some new spirit boxes coming too.
Yeah. Chris Cottle asked, just curious as to what this has to do with the paranormal. The gatherings are not just paranormal. The gatherings are paranormal in the sense that we do have, the portals. But this reaches out to people who have suffered from paranormal experiences. They can reach out to us on the gatherings. They can reach out to us on, the gatherings contact. They can reach out to us anywhere they want to. So new spirit boxes, those things are going to be awesome too. So, and religion and politics are not coming into play. I'm stating my opinion, Chris. The way that this world is headed, I mean, you take a look at the Bible and you see it all in there. That's just the way it is. And Jesus told us 2,000 years ago, these kind of things were going to happen. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if nobody stands up for something, then they're going to fall for anything. I mean, you got to do something. And this is the only way I know to do it. I mean, personally speaking, I don't know about anybody else, but this is my way of doing it. So this is kind of what we're looking at doing, and it's going to start April 7th. And like I said, we hope that you'll be a part of it. And of course, we're always open to suggestions and any way that we can better help people, we're going to do it. But like I said, we're also going to get grief counselors involved. We're going to get things like this involved too. And when people have experiences, they can reach out to Stacy. She's the one you want to go to for that. If you want somebody to just talk to, a lot of people can listen without judging. I don't care what you've done in your past. Everybody's got a past. So hopefully this will be something that we can all work on together and make things a little bit better, at least offer some kind of hope. So now, as far as the gatherings itself goes, Thursday nights at 9:00, that seems to work pretty well for people, I think. So that's what we're going to do. And then this thing will start, I believe it was said April 7th, which is a week from Wednesday at 7 p.m. And that'll be a Patreon only thing. So we hope that people will tune in and go along for the ride on that.
And some of the, I wanted to pre-warn everybody too, if you like this, if you do like the extra scary stuff, this is going to be some of these cases that we're going to let you in on are real, but they're real scary. Just as a warning, I know some people, I've had people, write and tell me, oh my gosh, since I've listened to your show, I've been having problems in my house. I saw a black shadow came and scratched me across the back and jumped out the window. And
I can tell you, as host of it, as co-host, or as one part of the host, I've not had anything. Well, I take that back. Yesterday, my front door locked on its own. Now, that could be attributed to anything. And I'm kind of like most people. I'm skeptic, but I'm curious. That's what Charlie said. And I am. I'm skeptical, but I'm curious. But by the same token, just because I don't see it there doesn't mean it's not there. In other words, just because I can't explain it doesn't mean it's any less real. So I keep an open mind, or I try to keep an open mind with this stuff.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to. Because I have had experiences myself.
Yeah.
I've never been scratched. I have been pushed or slapped on the back. A girl I dated one time was scratched. I told you about that in episodes back. I've never actually seen a full-blown apparition, but I've heard things. And some of the electronics in my home have went crazy, like the surround sound system turning up and down on its own. Now, that can be attributed to any number of things. It's electronics.
Yeah.
But when you speak out and you say, leave it the hell alone, stop, and it stops, and you don't have problems with it after that, what are you left with? Whatever remains improbable is probably the most probable. My child has had encounters. I mean, that's the way.
I think she's empathic as well, just like you.
Her grandmother was, her great grandmother was. I may be to some degree. I know, I do get feelings. I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
I get feelings all the time. But also, a lot of the contact that you see here will be us talking like this and talking to people, just like we're talking right here. In the chat room. Yeah, Charlie just brought up a good point. He said, I never did believe in UFOs, but he does now. He said, I still don't believe in Bigfoot. That's okay. And you know what?
I'll tell you what, Charlie, I believe in Bigfoot. And the only reason that I believe in it is because my mother and her family.
I remember that. Yeah. You told me
witnessed it growing up. And my mom's, if you know her, she's never, she would never lie about anything like that. And they all witnessed it coming down. My grandfather they had slaughtered hogs. This is back in the 50s. Mm-hmm. And put them up in the smokehouse. And he was a coal truck driver, and he was away, and they had an outhouse. So they were going outside before bed, and they just happened to hear kind of rocks slipping underfoot, and they looked up on their hill, which is just like a slanted hillside. And I looked up and they saw about an 8-foot something.
Mhm.
And she said that her brothers ran and got a flashlight and shined it at it. And when they would shine the flashlight at it directly, it would stop. And she said she remembers the hair right here blowing. It was cream colored. And so I did some research back in, in those times. And there were actually people looking into it. And they have like the footprints. And they had, I think it was 2 families that had been missing goats and things that just disappeared. And then they would find like carcasses 6 months later, I think it was, that'd been there, just the bones and things torn to
Well,
pieces.
I think a lot of what we see, barring that, I do. I think what she saw was what she saw. I do think a lot of experiences that people say that they have can be logically explained through one mean or another. For example, I'm out back the other night on my patio and it's midnight. Just wanted to get some fresh air, couldn't sleep. And hear this walking through the woods. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, great. Come to find out it was a deer. That happens. And there's deer all around this area. But when you get into things like you're talking about, or like Helen just said, when she sits down beside, or someone had sit down beside of her, but there was no one that lived there, or that there was no one there. Those things are a little harder to explain. They warrant further investigation. But now when I see or hear something, normally the first thing I wonder what that was. And I go on. When I see a doll move on its own, that is a key sign to me. And I'm not making a joke here at Lloyd, but when I see a doll move on its own, I'm sitting here thinking right off the bat, how? Well, the only thing I can think of is that something or someone moved it. And something, someone could be, that's it. Because this thing ain't going to squirt itself. Okay. This thing ain't going to squirt itself. But
he's dreading even being here.
Yeah. Well, I can see him right now looking back there. And it's not even dark yet. So
he keeps hearing stuff moving around, so he'll just start looking.
But you can find the links on any of our Facebook pages. And if you want to, that's great. We'd really appreciate it. But I can tell you right now, the money's going into this. And, I've had this conversation before with the gatherings, and the Mountain Mysteries. The gatherings deals with paranormal, but it deals with other issues too. It's about a lot more than that. And I'll tell you why I decided to let it go that route, because when I got this message, this Facebook message from this girl that said, this show saved my life, I had no hope. I saw no reason to go on. And then when I saw what happened, it made common sense to me that life after this continues. Well, then the gatherings became about whatever people needs it to be about. So is it strictly paranormal? No. It's also about helping people. That's its number one goal.
Right.
And I've told people this. And I thought that I was past that, but maybe not. And that's okay. I don't care to say it again. We do the portals. And the reason we do the portals is to show people life goes on after this. I've heard my mother. I've heard my dad. I've heard Trev. That voice, Trevor had a very distinctive voice. April.
Absolutely.
April.
That one, Trevor was absolutely,
there's no doubt about it. Even his people in his family said that was him.
I mean, his voice is not put into that software.
No,
not in his timbre or the tone of his voice, the quality, the way he sounded when he spoke. We all have a signature in our voice. It's the way we sound. It's how we say what we say. Lloyd has it. Stacy has it. I have it. Everybody has it.
Yep.
And this goes further to prove the point that who we are in essence carries on. And I do believe that 100%, 1,000%. I know it. So hopefully you'll follow us. Like I said, Stace, I'm getting ready to send it to you. I'll email you the link and you can just copy and paste it. Bob Dixon asked, did we change days and times? No, Bob, we've announced a new Best way I could think of to describe that today was, y'all heard of General Motors? Yeah. Okay. You know who GMC is? Yeah. You know who Chevrolet is? Yeah. It's just a different division of the same company. That's what this is, and I want to show that to Bob so he can see it. The Gatherings Contact. It's a Patreon only thing, and you can go back and watch this later, Bob. Or if you've got a question, you can Facebook message Stacy or I, and we'll be glad to explain it to you.
We'll be back Thursday night.
And we'll be back Thursday night, and we'll talk about it again. But it's really very specific about individual people who need the help. And the reason that we are broadcasting these people, if they want to be broadcasted, or addressing them via text or however, is so that it gives everybody else hope. And we want to let people know that they're not alone. Okay, Barry says, I've been depressed a lot lately, but when you guys come on Thursdays, the positive vibe you give out helps a lot. Barry, I love you, brother. And I can't tell you how much that means to us. That's what we want.
Barry.
That's what I want.
We're
I want
here
you to
for
know, Barry Penix, you're not alone.
No.
My name's Chris Sloan. Get me on Facebook. I think you and I are already buddies on there. Add Stacy if you've not. Add Lloyd.
Anytime.
You've got friends. You got people. That's what we do. Because let me tell you, I've been there. The day, January 21st, 2019, 10:03 a.m., my phone rings. I'm in Jackson at an apartment complex working. A nurse calls. Is this Chris Sloan? Yes. Chris, this is so-and-so with Pikeville Medical Center. Sorry to tell you, we lost your mom. Until you get that call, and until you feel that low, you have no idea. "33 days later."
I'll never forget that.
I go out to visit Dad, which I'd always been a staple in my parents' lives, and they in mine. But I go out to visit Dad. I'd messaged him because he's wanting to sell like one of them little trailers you hook to the back of a truck, single axle. And he said, "What do you think I can get out of it?" I said, "I don't know, Pop. Whatever you think." I said, "I'll put it on Facebook and we'll get it sold one way or another." He said, "I don't care if you can get it sold for a couple $100." I said, "Okay." So I did, and this really nice guy, really cool guy from Whitensville, I believe it was, messaged me and he said, "Can you give me the dimensions on that trailer?" Well, I said, "I think it's 4 foot by 8 foot, but I'm not sure. I don't know nothing about that. So let me call Dad." So I called. Went to voicemail. Called again. Because at that point, I'm thinking, yeah, he's probably taking a nap. Hour later, I call. Goes to voicemail. Hour later, I call. My special needs brother, who's got the mind of an 8-year-old child, answers the phone.
Ugh.
He says, "You need to come out here. Dad's asleep on the floor." So I get a friend of mine who has experience in the medical field. She's like a nurse. And I asked her, I said, "Will you go with me?" She said, "Yeah, let me get my stuff." She does. I'll call Paintsville 911. From Prestonsburg, if you're familiar with traveling northbound on US 23, there's a little part of the road that comes out from where the town of Paintsville is and merges onto US 23 going northbound. I beat them. And those guys are quick. At one point, I looked down, and I don't even care to say what my speed was. It was in the triples. Lights on, flashing, and whatever I could. And I just knew if I got pulled over, I had hoped they would take me to jail after I got out there to him. But I got lucky. God was with me. I didn't get pulled over. But they tucked in behind me, and they came out there, and we were moving. And I got out there. I got out of the car, ran into the house, and there he laid with a little bottle of orange juice. and his hand reached out to where his mom used to sit. I didn't think I was that strong because I took a solid wood coffee table that had, drawers on it, flaps. I slung it across that living room like it was an ink pen. And I got down to try to give CPR. And the minute I touched for a pulse, I knew he was gone. He was cold. Rigor was setting in. And I walked outside and I met those EMTs. Those guys were great. And I said, he's gone. And they just looked at me. And this one guy, I swear he was huge. God, he had to have been 6'5". He said, he ain't gone until I say he's gone. And he ran in there. This is what I'm talking about. You get it out and you tell people there's still hope. A lot of people ask me after the fact, were you mad at God? No. How could I be? He gave me 47 years with him. Simple fact of the matter is, and even the coroner said, Chris, broken heart syndrome's a real thing. That's what he died of when your mom left. They've been married for 52 years. I went through all this. Time and again, day after day, day after day, day after day. Then I had somebody. His name was Trevor Huff. And he came over and he said, moving on doesn't mean you forget. It just means that you're living your life and you're honoring them the best way you know how. He said, so let me ask you a question. Happened right in here at this table. He said, what's the best way you know how? That is why I do what I do. And that's why I ask for your help. You'll never not have a day when you don't remember them. And there'll be some days that those memories come up and you shed a tear. But that's okay. Because that means it was real. And that is a gift. Then you start thinking about the good memories. It'll come. The funny memories. The moment when you walk in to the kitchen door and your mother is washing dishes with her back turned to you and calls you a filthy whore. And she thought she was talking to her husband, your dad, because they always carried on like that. They would always play fight like that. People ask, well, you got spanked when you were a kid. You were abused. No, I was not abused. It was discipline. It was love. And I got it the first time I had to do it to my daughter because my dad said, this hurts me more than it'll ever hurt you. I never did get that when I was getting it. I never did get that when I was getting spanked. I thought, well, it hurts pretty bad. It didn't. He took it easy on me. Except that one time Mom went to slap me and I blocked her and he was standing behind me and I didn't know it. I was 13 years old and he demonstrated quite well to me. A man doesn't do that. A man does not raise his hands to a woman, especially his mother. That was after he knocked me stone cold out. And he said, you want to be a man? You're a big man. Raise a hand to a woman, let alone your mother. He said, come here, big man. Let me show you, big man, how tough you are. From that day on, it was, Chris, honey, take out the garbage. Yes, ma'am. And that garbage was out. Or whatever the case may be. And to my dad, it was yes or no, sir. And he always told me, son, every time you call me sir, I'll look over my shoulder for my father, which is something I picked up from him.
And he
I
always
was
told me,
loved
every time you call me sir.
every time. Charlie says, I do believe when someone dies and you see them in your dreams, they are actually there talking, visiting you. I believe that too, Charlie.
Absolutely.
I do. I've had dreams about Trevor. I've had one dream about my dad, which was I left my cell phone, my iPhone, behind in an abandoned factory. And I don't know why we were trying to get out of there, but we were trying to make haste to get out of there. And I remember I said, Dad, I left my phone. And he turned and he looked at me and went, oh, really? So, and I've had a dream about Mom. God, that was beautiful. I don't know where we were at, but the water was still calm and clear. And she just told me, proud of you. And she said, move forward. Had a dream about Trev. His eyes were as blue as, I really don't have anything to compare. His eyes were as blue as what you see right there where it says the gatherings and that cloud above it. His eyes were electric blue. Now, Trevor had beautiful eyes. I mean, he was just a cool, he just had that look. Women went crazy over him. And I used to tell him, I said, man, do you like use mascara on your eyelashes or something? He's like, no. but his eyes were a certain blue. And I think it was Stacy that told me that's his way of telling you he's okay.
Yep.
And the hope I have is that one day, when it's all said and done and it's all washed up, I'll see him again. Not just one of them, all of them. That's what my hope is. That's what my belief is. So no, Bob, that was the very, very, very long answer to your question. Gatherings are still Thursday nights at 9. But contact will be Wednesdays on Patreon or something like that. We'll figure that out as we go. But we want to have enough time to get things together and make it right, because anything that we do that's in honor of those that we've lost and loved, I want it to be as good as I can do it. I'm not Spielberg. I'm not Lucas. I'm not Tarantino, which is probably a good thing. But I'm just me. And we want to do something different and unique, as different and unique as those that we've loved and lost are. Some kind of tribute with every episode, some kind of honor. And as for me and this show, we will always serve God. So what do you think about that, Stace? Didn't mean to get teary-eyed on you. Has to happen sometimes, though, and I don't care to show it. I don't care to express in front of these people, because these people are family. All of you guys are family. I don't care to express it to you. And I want you to do the same if you feel it, because I know without doubt in my heart right now, I'm looking at names of people that have lost people they love. Everybody does. Some have lost their children. Some have lost their significant others. Some have lost their parents. Some have lost friends. I don't think that there's any degree of loss. You know, there's one degree is not worse than another. Loss is loss. And it affects us all differently. But I don't want this to be a grief counseling session either. We'll have counseling available, but I want this to be something where people take hope from it. You know, 45 years ago, who the hell would have thought that you and I would have been doing this? Who would have thought it, Stace? And here we are. It's like Mama said, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Amen. Yep, you're right, Mom. So, dear, we've been on an hour. Much longer than I anticipated we would be, but it seems like when we get on here, it just clicks and ticks.
It was needed.
It was needed. And I hope that you all will check it out. And we'll talk a little bit more about it Thursday night. And of course, Thursday night, we'll have the portals. And I'd like to see if we can reach out to some people and maybe have a few people come through in the chat, whoever it is. I know Bobby loves to hear from Hannah. Charlie loves to hear from some of his family. I'm sure Tracy would love to hear from Ross. Sharon, of course, would love to hear from April. We all love hearing from April. And hell, everybody loves hearing from Hannah. Everybody loves hearing from her. And anybody
Yeah, she really made my night.
Yeah, anybody else. It doesn't matter. Helen, Chris, whomever you are, if there's something out there that we can do to help, we want to try. Doesn't cost a thing to try. So, but the gatherings will go on. The contact's just going to be a little more focused and a little more. It'll have some videos and stuff like that that show even more evidence. Like you don't see Jenny moving on her own or the clown doll doing something. Yeah, I got his attention there, didn't I?
Oh, she's been over here moving. She moved earlier, and he saw it. That's what he was doing.
Yeah, went somewhere else. But no, the gatherings have not changed their date and time. This was an impromptu thing, kind of impromptu. I think we posted it today around 2 or 3, whatever it was, that we were going to do this and just announce this new thing. And our whole goal with that is to hopefully help some other people and grow this thing and get it growing. So tell people about it. The word's getting out, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. That's what we want. So, guys, with that being said, I want to sign off. Stacey, you got anything to say?
No, just thank you guys for everything, and we're going to try to do some more fun, interesting things for you guys.
Yeah, maybe out there somewhere we'll find some.
We're going to let you in on our world
a little bit more. Yep.
Yep.
So with that being said, we love each and every one of you, and thank you very much. And until the next time, till Thursday night at 9 p.m., stay mysterious.